stay motivated is actually terrible advice.
Whoa, completely. It's the worst.
Yeah, in fact, relying on motivation might be the exact reason your side hustle or, your passion project is currently stalling out.
Right.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we are decoding the psychology of the side hustle. We're looking specifically at why we lose our drive and, how to keep going when you genuinely, desperately just want to quit.
Which happens to everyone, by the way.
Exactly. And we are pulling our insights today from Chapter 4 of the book, Hustle Smarter, Not Harder. It focuses heavily on hustle psychology.
It's a great chapter.
It really is.
Yeah.
And honestly, looking through this research, it reframes the whole concept of productivity.
Yeah, because it essentially argues that motivation itself is basically a myth.
Right. Okay, let's unpack this. It's a profound shift in perspective.
It really is, and the psychological research completely backs it up. Goal pursuit follows this highly predictable, totally universal pattern.
Like a literal timeline.
Yes, think about it. You have an idea, you start a new project, and you enter what psychologists call the honeymoon phase.
Oh, the best part.
Right. You are completely fired up. You're unstoppable. But then, inevitably, around weeks 3 to 6, there is a severe drop in that enthusiasm.
Just a total cliff.
A literal cliff. And this
Right.
is known in the research as the dip.
Week 3 to 6. It's almost comforting to know there is a specific biological timeline for when the wheels usually fall off.
Yeah, it's not just a personal failing.
Exactly. I always thought it was just me.
No, and that is the crucial takeaway here. Hitting the dip is not a sign of failure. It doesn't mean your idea is fundamentally flawed,
Right.
or that you lack character. It is simply normal human psychology. The dip is not an endpoint. It is a filter.
The filter for what, exactly?
It's the mechanism that separates those who quit from those who actually build something that lasts. The people who succeed are simply the ones who are still showing up on those boring, hard, unremarkable Tuesdays when absolutely nothing feels like it's working.
Wow. Okay, so if this dip is entirely inevitable and everybody goes through it, why does it defeat so many of us?
That's the big question.
Yeah, why is week 4 the graveyard for so many great ideas?
Because historically, we rely far too heavily on how we feel. Think of motivation as emotional weather.
Emotional weather. I like that.
Right. If you look out the window, the weather changes daily, sometimes hourly.
Yeah, for sure.
If you build your entire side hustle strategy on the foundation of feeling motivated, you are essentially building a house on sand.
Because it's perfectly fine when the sun is out, but it is catastrophic the moment a storm hits.
Exactly. You would never plan a major outdoor construction project relying entirely on the assumption that it will never rain.
But that's exactly what we do with our goals. We just assume we'll always feel like working.
And to counter this, the text presents a crucial psychological pivot. Action creates motivation, not the other way around.
Wait, action comes first.
That is arguably the most important piece of psychology we're exploring today. We usually think we need to feel good to start working.
Right, we wait for the spark.
But the neurological reality is we need to start working to feel good. The dopamine release that fuels motivation often comes after we've completed a small task, not before.
Oh, I see. It's like an old car battery.
How do you mean?
Well, you can't just sit in the driver's seat and wait around for a spark to magically happen on its own. You have to physically, manually turn the key to engage the starter motor and get the alternator running.
That's a great analogy.
The action has to come first to generate the juice.
Mm.
But I have to ask, if your internal battery feels completely dead and you're in the middle of that week 4 dip where your emotional weather is a literal hurricane,
Yeah, those really bad days.
isn't forcing yourself to turn the key just a recipe for burnout? How do you actually start when you have zero energy?
What's fascinating here is how the source solves that exact problem of extreme friction.
Okay, what's the solution?
The solution to low motivation isn't a better Spotify playlist or, watching an inspiring video on YouTube. The solution is to drastically lower the barrier to starting.
Lower the barrier.
You have to make the minimum action so laughably small that even on your absolute worst day, the psychological and physical cost of doing the task is less than the guilt of skipping it.
Oh, wow. So lowering the barrier until it's barely a bump.
Exactly.
Because the first sentence is always the hardest to write, right? The first rep at the gym is always the heaviest.
Precisely. Once you overcome that initial friction, once you write one single sentence or do 1 minute of actual work momentum takes over.
Right, the action itself generates the motivation to write the second sentence.
So we bypass our emotional weather and just start, no matter how ridiculously small the start is.
But even if we lower the barrier, our brains are incredibly good at finding excuses to stop.
Oh, they're experts at it.
The research outlines several specific mental roadblocks that pop up to trick us into quitting, and reading through these felt incredibly familiar.
I think everyone sees themselves in these traps.
Definitely. Let's talk about that outward focus we all get, where we look at someone else
Yeah.
and suddenly feel totally paralyzed.
You're referring to comparison paralysis.
Yes, that's the one.
Imagine you're building a new Shopify store or like starting a newsletter. You look at someone else's polished, highly successful platform and compare it to your own messy, uncertain process.
Right, which feels awful.
The trap here is that you are comparing your chapter 1 to their chapter 20. Visible outcomes hide invisible processes.
Yeah, you aren't seeing their 3 failed product launches or the 2 years they spent speaking to an empty room.
It is a fundamentally unfair fight to compare your start to their finish.
And that outward focus feeds directly into imposter syndrome, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
That nagging voice asking, who am I to charge for this service? I'm not an expert.
But there is a very pragmatic cure for this in the text. The honest answer to who am I is simply that you are someone who knows a little bit more than your specific client about one specific thing.
Wait, really? That's all it takes?
That's all it takes. You don't have to be the greatest graphic designer in the world. You just have to be a few steps ahead of the local bakery owner who needs a menu designed.
Okay, that knowledge gap actually has real monetary value.
Exactly. Every expert you admire was once a beginner who just kept going while everyone else stopped and told themselves they weren't ready yet.
Which brings us to the trap of perfectionism. It's described beautifully here as fear in a productivity costume.
I love that phrasing.
Me too, because it's so true. We polish things endlessly so we don't have to face rejection.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting for me. I always thought high standards were a prerequisite for putting something out into the world. Isn't there a real danger in putting out an imperfect product and ruining your reputation before you even get off the ground?
It is a valid fear, but the reality of building anything is that things only improve after they exist in the real world.
After they exist.
Yeah. Your first website doesn't need to be beautiful. Your first email sequence doesn't need to be flawless. You cannot iterate on a draft that lives only in your head.
That is so true.
The best first version of anything is a shipped version. Getting it out there gives you data, and data lets you improve. Perfection at the start is an illusion anyway.
And waiting for perfection just leads to the I'll start when delay.
Oh, the classic delay.
I'll start when the kids are older, when I have more money saved, when the economy is better.
Those perfect conditions will never arrive. The imperfect start is the only start available to you.
Wow.
It also requires letting go of binary all-or-nothing thinking. That's another major trap.
How so?
Well, if you plan a 2-hour work session but an emergency comes up and you only have 30 minutes, the trap is thinking the day is ruined and doing nothing.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Right. But showing up at 50% on a difficult day is infinitely better than 0. Partial progress compounds over time. Paralysis doesn't.
That compounding progress is so hard to see, though, which is why we fall into outcome addiction.
Yes, obsessing over things we can't fully control.
Like revenue, follower counts, or algorithmic rankings. We stare at those numbers, and when they don't move, we just want to quit.
Because those are lagging indicators. Lagging indicators take weeks or months to catch up to your inputs.
Right.
If you only look at the money, the lagging indicator, you'll likely quit in week 3 when the dip hits. The key is to shift your focus to leading indicators.
Things we can actually control.
Exactly. Track the number of pitch emails you send, the pieces of content you publish, the hours of focused work you put in. If you focus on the habits, you'll survive the dip.
But it's just so easy to get distracted during that dip. When your project gets hard, suddenly a new business model or a new social media platform appears and looks so much easier.
Ah, shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. The grass always looked greener on the other side.
But the text points out that the reason the grass looks greener is simply because you're close enough to see the weeds in your own lawn, but you're too far away to see the weeds in there.
Oh, that's brilliant. Every path has weeds.
Every single one. Switching paths just means you're trading one set of problems for another while simultaneously losing all your forward momentum.
Okay, so we are aware of these traps. Comparison, perfectionism, outcome addiction, shiny object syndrome. But just knowing they exist doesn't seem like enough. I mean, I can't just will myself to not feel imposter syndrome on a Tuesday morning.
No, and you shouldn't try to rely on willpower.
Why not?
Because willpower is just another form of emotional weather. To bypass these traps entirely, you have to build physical and structural systems.
Systems instead of willpower.
Yes, you have to engineer conditions that produce consistent action regardless of your mood. This is what the book calls building a motivation infrastructure.
Motivation infrastructure. So, what does that actually look like in our daily lives?
Well, it starts with anchor habits. This means attaching your side hustle tasks to an existing non-negotiable daily routine so the work requires zero decision making.
Okay, give me an example.
So you don't just say, I'll do client work today. You say, immediately after I pour my morning coffee, I sit at my desk for 30 minutes.
Oh, I see.
Or, before I sit down for dinner, I spend 15 minutes responding to emails. The coffee or the dinner becomes the trigger. It just happens automatically.
You're completely removing the choice of when to work.
Hmm.
And you're also supposed to use environment design, right?
Yes, environment design is huge.
Like putting your phone charger in another room during work time, or leaving your laptop open on your desk before you go to sleep, deleting distraction apps.
Exactly.
It's like when you go bowling and you put up those inflatable bumper lanes. You're just making the right action easier than the wrong one.
That is a great way to look at it. You are literally blocking the gutters so the ball has to hit the pins. Your environment shapes your behavior way more powerfully than your internal discipline ever could.
That takes so much pressure off.
It does. And along with that, a solid infrastructure requires accountability and checkpoints.
Checkpoints.
Yeah, you tell one trusted person your specific goal with a 90-day deadline. The mild social discomfort of potentially letting someone down is surprisingly powerful fuel.
Oh, for sure. The fear of embarrassment is a great motivator.
And you need to celebrate the checkpoints. The first $100 earned, the first positive review. These aren't vanity metrics. They are necessary refueling stops on a very long journey.
And tracking the wins. Keeping a wins document is such a brilliant concept.
It really is a game changer.
It's just a running list on your computer or like a notebook of every positive data point. A nice message from a client, a breakthrough idea, a finished project.
Right, and you intentionally read it on the days you want to quit as a fast reminder of how far you've come.
Because our brains are naturally wired for negativity bias. We forget our successes so quickly.
We really do. All these systems work together to keep you moving, and there is a perfect case study in the book to illustrate this with a guy named Daniel.
Oh, right, the content writer.
Yeah, Daniel started a content writing side hustle while working a very demanding, exhausting full-time job. He knew his emotional weather would be terrible most days. So his rule wasn't to write an ambitious 2,000 words a day. His rule was simply to write exactly 200 words every single morning before he was allowed to check his phone.
Wait, 200 words? That's maybe a single paragraph.
Yeah.
Takes what, 10 minutes?
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
a laughably low barrier. On good days, he might find a flow state and write 1,500 words. But on his absolute worst, most exhausted days, he hit his 200 words, closed his laptop, and stopped.
Just to keep the habit alive.
The key was that the rule was small enough to always keep. 12 months later, he had over 400 pieces of writing, 4 long-term retainer clients, and was making thousands a month in side income.
That's incredible.
His secret wasn't extraordinary motivation or raw talent. It was a rule too small to break.
So how do we apply Daniel's 200-word rule to our own chaotic lives?
Right.
Like, what is the core principle there that makes it work so well?
It's called your minimum viable action.
Minimum viable action.
Yes, it is the absolute smallest possible action that still counts as forward progress, allowing you to maintain your psychological streak even on impossible days.
Okay, that makes sense.
And this actually shatters a major myth we have about successful people. We look at successful entrepreneurs and assume they are just naturally more disciplined.
Right, waking up at 4 a.m., pumped and ready to grind.
Yeah.
We assume they have some genetic advantage in willpower that we lack.
But the reality is they just built better systems and they have worse excuses. They designed their environments to make the right action effortless.
So it's not a character trait.
No, discipline is not a character trait you were born with. Discipline is infrastructure. It's the result of smart design. So we need to stop admiring their willpower and start studying their system.
Okay, but let's get real for a second.
Sure.
Even with perfect bumper lanes in your bowling alley, and even with a rock-solid minimum viable action, you are eventually going to have a week where everything just completely falls apart.
It's inevitable.
A major client ghosts you, a product launch totally flops, you get awful feedback on a project. How do you survive the weeks where your infrastructure just feels useless?
The research acknowledges this reality head on. These bad weeks are not exceptional events. They are normal, unavoidable parts of building anything real.
Okay, so what do we do?
To navigate them, there's a very specific 7-step crisis management protocol. When disaster strikes, step 1 is to give yourself exactly 24 hours to feel whatever you feel: frustration, anger, sadness.
Okay.
But you are not allowed to make a single strategic decision about your business during this 24-hour window.
See, step 1 feels so counterintuitive to me. If my side hustle is crashing and burning, shouldn't I immediately pivot and try to problem solve?
That's the instinct, yes.
Taking a full 24 hours off just to sit in my feelings feels like I'm giving up when I should be hustling harder to fix it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it makes perfect sense. Think back to the psychological traps we just discussed. If you try to make a strategic decision while you are in a state of emotional panic, your brain is in fight or flight mode.
Right, you're not thinking clearly.
You are almost guaranteed to fall into binary thinking, deciding to just quit entirely, or shiny object syndrome, deciding to radically pivot your whole business model just to escape the immediate discomfort.
Oh, wow. I've definitely done that.
Enforcing that 24-hour freeze is actually the ultimate act of discipline. It prevents you from destroying your long-term progress due to short-term emotional weather.
Okay, that makes total sense. You're basically quarantining the bad mood so it doesn't infect the business structure.
Perfectly said.
So after that 24-hour freeze, what's next?
You have to interrupt the mental loop physically. That's the next step. When you are stressed, your nervous system is agitated. You cannot think your way out of a physiological response.
What do you do?
Go for a walk, do a hard workout, change your physical location. It forces a reset. After that, you talk to someone who has actually been through it.
Like a mentor.
Yeah, but not a friend who will just blindly tell you to quit to make you feel better or toss out toxic positivity like you've got this. You need to speak to someone who understands the actual trenches of what you're trying to do.
And then you open that wins document we talked about.
Yes, you read it slowly. You remind yourself with hard data that you do not always fail, because right now your brain is trying to convince you that you've never done anything right.
It's so true. Your brain just deletes all your past successes.
Exactly. And once you're grounded, you fall back on your infrastructure, you execute your minimum viable action, and absolutely nothing more.
Just the minimum.
If your goal was Daniel's 200 words, you write 200 words. You just keep the streak alive to prove to yourself that the crisis didn't stop you.
And
The next morning, you reassess the situation with fresh eyes and a rested brain. You identify the single most important next action you need to take to fix the problem, and you execute it before you open social media or check your email.
it really is a survival guide for the dip. You're just putting one foot in front of the other safely until the storm passes.
Exactly.
But there's one more piece to this puzzle that comes up, and it's less about what you do and more about who you are.
Yes, the identity shift. Most people approach their side hustle as something they are trying. They say, I'm trying to be a freelance writer, or I'm trying to start a consulting business.
Right.
The most effective psychological shift you can make is to drop the trying to be and adopt the identity of the person who already does the work. You say, I am a freelance writer who is currently building my client base.
And it's not a delusion or some, manifestation trick. It's a framing mechanism that changes how you make daily decisions.
Exactly.
It changes how you talk about your work and what you say yes or no to. If you are trying to be a writer, maybe you write today, maybe you don't. But if you are a writer, you sit down and write, because that is simply what writers do.
Identity drives behavior, and consistent behavior drives results. If you change the underlying identity, the difficult actions follow much more naturally, because you are no longer fighting against who you think you are.
This has been incredibly eye-opening.
It's powerful stuff.
To summarize what we've unpacked today for you listening, consistency will always beat raw talent. Motivation is just emotional weather. You absolutely cannot rely on it if you want to build something lasting.
And discipline is not some innate character flaw if you lack it.
Right. Discipline is a system and infrastructure that you can design and build for yourself right now.
And that brings us to the application. I want to pass on a specific challenge from the text to you, the listener.
Let's hear it.
Define your own minimum viable daily action today. What is the one tiny thing you can do for your project even on your absolute worst, most exhausting day?
Make it laughably small.
Yes, one email drafted, one paragraph written, one sketch completed, one idea logged in a spreadsheet.
Write that single action on a sticky note and put it on your bedroom floor, right where you will literally have to step on it when you get out of bed tomorrow morning. That secures the baseline.
And everything above that minimum action is just bonus progress.
Exactly.
As a great summary of this mindset, there's a powerful quote from the source to keep in mind. Work hard on the things only you can do. Automate, delegate, or delete everything else without guilt.
Delete everything else without guilt. I love that.
It's so liberating.
So, as you walk away from this deep dive today, I want to leave you with this final thought to mull over. Once you define that minimum daily action, and you put that sticky note on your floor to ensure you manually turn the key and start the engine every single day,
Right.
take a hard look at the rest of your sprawling, overwhelming to-do list. What is the one massive looming task you are currently agonizing over that you should actually just be deleting without guilt?
That's a great question.
Because clearing out that noise might just be the exact thing you need to finally weather the storm.